Let's be honest, you've seen the headlines. Bird flu, H5N1. It's everywhere, and it's sparking a ton of questions and, yeah, a little bit of concern. So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise and get straight to the science. Let's jump in. This is really the question, isn't it? We see the virus making moves into new species, and we all want to know what it means for us. So today, we are going to break down exactly what that risk looks like and what the world's scientists are keeping a very close eye on. Okay, so to really understand where we are now, we have to look at this virus's recent journey. Because trust me, it has not been sitting still. For a long, long time, this version of bird flu, H5N1, was pretty much just that, a problem for birds. It caused these absolutely devastating outbreaks on poultry farms and among wild bird populations all over the globe. We're talking millions of birds. It was a huge deal for agriculture, for sure, but not really seen as a direct threat to people. But just recently, that whole picture changed. The virus made a really significant leap, a major spillover into mammals, specifically dairy cows here in the United States. And this is a really big deal. Why? Because every single time it infects a new mammal, it's like the virus gets a new lab to try and figure out how to adapt. So, has it actually infected people before? Yes. But you have to understand it is incredibly rare. Since we first spotted it in humans way back in 1997, there have only been 911 confirmed cases in the whole world. And pretty much all of those came from people who had very close direct contact with sick birds. Now, when you see a number like this, a 59% fatality rate, it is terrifying, I get it. But, and this is a really crucial but, this number only counts the severe confirmed cases, the ones who got sick enough to end up in a hospital. Most scientists believe the true mortality rate is way, way lower, simply because we're not catching all the mild or even asymptomatic cases out there. So, you might be wondering, if this virus has been around for decades, why hasn't it sparked a human pandemic? Well, the answer is actually locked away in our own biology. There's a barrier, and it's a pretty strong one. It all starts with this little guy, a protein called hemagglutinin, or just HA. The easiest way to think about it is like a key. For the virus to get inside one of our cells and start making copies, this key has to fit perfectly into a lock on that cell's surface. And this visual just perfectly explains the virus's problem. The bird flu's key is made for bird locks, these things called alpha-2,3 receptors. Now, we humans do have those locks, but they're mostly found way down deep in our lungs. The locks up in our nose and throat, the ones you need to infect to easily spread by coughing, are a totally different shape. They're called alpha-2,6. The bird flu's key just doesn't fit in there very well. But, of course, viruses mutate. That's what they do. They are constantly jiggling the handle, trying to pick that lock. And so scientists are watching the virus's genetic code like hawks, looking for very specific changes that could finally give it the right tools for the job. So the first type of mutation to watch for isn't really about the key itself. Think of it more like an engine upgrade, a way for the virus to run better once it's inside a warm-blooded mammal. Yeah, it's a mouthful, PB2E627K. But what it does is actually pretty straightforward. It's a well-known tweak that basically tunes up the virus's replication engine so it works way better at the cooler temperatures inside our nose and throat. And we know from past human cases, this mutation doesn't just help it copy itself faster, it's also been linked to making the disease more severe. Okay, so if the first mutation was the engine, this second one is all about remodeling the key itself. It's about changing its shape so it can finally open those human locks. This is the one scientists get really concerned about. A mutation like this one, Q226L, literally changes the shape of that key protein. It lets it grab onto our human receptors, those alpha-2,6 locks in our nose and throat, much more easily. Getting this right would be a massive, critical step for the virus to be able to spread from person to person. So we know which mutations to look for, but could they actually happen in the wild and combine to create a truly transmissible virus? Well, a series of really controversial but very important experiments gave us a pretty clear answer. So, back in 2011, some researchers did exactly that. They took H5N1. They intentionally gave it some of those key mutations, and then they passed it from one ferret to another over and over again. Ferrets are a good model for this because their respiratory systems are a lot like ours. And guess what? After a few rounds, a new strain emerged that could spread through the air between the animals. It was proof that, yes, H5N1 can become airborne in mammals. But here is the single most important detail that got completely lost in all the scary headlines. While the new virus could spread through the air, it lost its deadly punch. The ferrets that caught it via aerosol did not die, and this shows us something absolutely critical. Just because a virus gets better at spreading doesn't mean it stays as deadly. Sometimes gaining one thing means giving up another. So, with all this knowledge about mutations and transmission, how in the world are we keeping tabs on this thing? Well, it takes a global strategy that looks way beyond just sick people. It's a concept called One Health. And the idea is actually really simple, but it's so powerful. You can't protect human health in a vacuum. You have to also monitor animal health and the health of our shared environment. For H5N1, this means we are constantly sampling and sequencing the virus's genes wherever we find it, in a wild duck, a dairy cow, or a farm worker, so we can spot those dangerous mutations the second they appear. And all of this brings us right back to the beginning, to that ultimate question. After all we've looked at, is it really that simple? Is there just one little genetic switch that could flip and start a pandemic? The reality is, it's almost never about just one single mutation. A much better way to think about it is like a combination lock. The virus needs the right mutation for the key, the right mutation for the engine, and probably a few other changes we don't even fully understand yet, all to line up perfectly. But, and here's the real takeaway, every time this virus spills over into a new group of mammals, like our dairy cows, it gets another chance to spin the dials. It gets another chance to guess the code. And that is exactly why we have to keep watching.